Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm here today to talk about communicating science with videos. My name is Montserrat Capellas-Espuny, and I'm editorial content manager at the ESRF. I work in the communication group. And I just wanted to basically tell you a little bit about how we've come to do videos. But before that, I'll do a bit of housekeeping. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do about a half an hour presentation. And then after that, I'm going to show you a couple of videos about, examples of what we do. And then after that, if you've got questions, you're welcome to raise your hand, and then I'll go through the questions one by one. There's my colleague Chantal Argou here as well, who's going to help me with that as well if I get stuck. Yeah, so we'll keep it like that. And if you can be muted while I do the presentation, then we're not going to have any sound issues. So yeah, going back to the videos. So how we do videos at the ESRF. So we've always done videos for many years, and it's always been videos that we've been subcontracting to professional videographers. So we would do the script and the storyboard, and then we would subcontract someone to do the video, the filming and the post-production. But about 4 years ago, we realized that, social media, the videos were starting to really shoot up, and they were starting to be more and more important. So we said, well, let's do videos in-house, because in-house you can do videos on news very quickly. You've got your scientists here. It's something that you can do very quickly, and you basically concentrate everything in one person, which is me at the moment. So that's what we did, and then we started first using a software that was very simple, and now we've become a bit more sophisticated. But I'll go through all that later on. But just to give you a bit of the background of how we are working with videos, and our videos tend to be, the videos we do in-house tend to be quite short, 1 to 2 minutes, not more. So yeah, I'll go through everything a bit more in detail later on. So why use videos? Well, it's growing, the video use, as you probably know, is growing hugely on the website. So there's got some stats there for you. 82% of the internet traffic, consumer internet traffic in 2022 is going to be related to video, and that's Cisco forecasted that. That is huge. 82% is a lot of all the internet traffic for consumers. And there's also stats that say that almost 7 out of 10 people watch video news online every week. So this gives you a bit of the sense that how big the video market is. Also on social media, some of you are probably on social media. It gets more exposure than, if you've got a post that has videos. So I've taken the example of Twitter, which is a social media channel that was not originally made for videos, not like TikTok or Instagram, where there's a lot more videos featuring naturally in there. The tweets with videos, they get 10 times more engagement than tweets that don't have video, and they get retweeted 6 times more than those that don't have videos. So videos are very important in that sense, but they're also important in the connection that you do with your audience, because there's a bit more emotional connection. You see people moving. It can be a bit more personal than just photos and the text. So this is why I think videos are important in general. So if you want to do a video, what do you need to do a video? So basically you need a story to tell, and I'll go through that in detail in the next slides. Then you need a smartphone, or you could use a digital SLR camera if you like, but smartphones these days are so good that you probably don't need a digital SLR. A tripod, a small tripod can do, so that you don't have wobbly shots. Sometimes you can use a stabilizer. Stabilizers look like this. So we've got stabilizer, but we don't use it much because we actually have a very good iPhone, so we don't really need it. But depends on what phone you have, you might you might find it useful. Then you need an editing capability. I say capability because they're not all software programs. So there are desktop software programs, but they're also web-based, I don't know, web-based apps, you'd say, or that you can do it on the website and they work fine. And then also you've got the mobile apps as well. And then finally, once you've got your whole video, what you do with your video, right? So you need outlets where you can publish your video. So social media channels is the obvious one, but there's also websites. You know, for example, you work in an institute and your group has a website about the research that you do in the group. Maybe it's nice to have a video there so that the person that arrives on your group page, they can get a clear idea of what your group does. Or conferences, for example, you might go to a conference and you have a 50-minute presentation. 50 minutes can be very long. So you can just, you know, maybe break it up by putting a video and keep your audience engaged. So that's a bit more or less like the kind of the how you do things. And then I'm going to go through the different steps. So you've got the planning, you've got the execution, and you've got the post-production. So I'm going to start with the planning. I'm going to give you some ideas. It is up to you. You know, you just take whatever works for you, because I know that a lot of you, well, most of you are scientists, and you might have different needs one from another. So this is very general, but it might be, it works for everybody. You know, depending on what kind of videos you want to do. The story. So you need to find the key points of the story. These are things that you need to think about when you are putting together your story. What is the story? But to define the story, you need to think about what is your research, because your research might have a lot of different aspects to it. So what is it that you want to concentrate in a 1-minute video or in a 2-minute video? You can't say everything. So what is it? This is kind of linked to who is your audience. So are you talking to fellow scientists in a conference, scientists that specialize in the same thing as you? Are you talking to your children's school? Are you talking to a school kid? Are you talking to, in the town hall of your city, for example? They ask you to do a presentation. Or are you talking to your social media audience as well, which might not be the same? So who is your audience is going to probably help you shape what is your story. I mean, all these questions are all interlinked between them. Then what is the point of the video, right? Why are you doing this video? What is your, what you want to achieve with this video? And this, again, is very linked to when is a good time to do it. Because, for example, if you got a paper coming up and you want to promote your paper, then you might want to contact your communication group and say, look, we could do a video on that. And then if you've got some footage and you can put a video together, then, media love videos and they use them all the time. So if you've got a paper coming up, that's a very good reason to do it. There is a grant deadline that you want to apply for. You want to put together a video like that's on the website of your group, for example, or maybe as you can send it as a link as well in your grant application. There can be a lot of different reasons why you want to do a video, but you need to think about that beforehand. And when is a good moment to do it. And how are you doing the video is the last thing. So how are you going to do the video? What scenario are you going to do? Where are you going to film? If you are based in Germany, but you come very often to the ESRF. So basically it's probably a good idea to also film a little bit when you're here at the ESRF. It's a bit the how you're going to put it together. So all these questions are just questions that you need to go through beforehand, and that it helps to structure the story. Then once you have everything in your head, you put it on paper. So if you're doing a 1 to 2 minute video, you probably don't need to do a storyboard. So storyboard is a bit what you see in the picture. It's a kind of a comic book about the video. And this is what's used in films, for example. In films, they have storyboards. In a 1 or 2 minute video, you don't need that. You can do a script where you've got, I often do a script. So you've got an audio, video, and a time frame. And then you have a bit of an idea of what you're going to put where. And audio, I say audio, but it could be captions if you're going without sound. And this actually quite helps structure everything and make sure that when you are filming, you don't forget anything. However, if you are going to interview someone, you are going to struggle to put a script together because you don't know what they're going to say. So, you know, you just be a bit flexible. In any case, just draft something about what you want to do, because it helps to structure the story in your head. Sound, yes or no? That's the question. As you know, probably you all on social, well, I don't know if you're on social media or not, but you probably watch the news sometimes on your phone. And if you're in public places, you probably don't put the sound on, I suppose. Well, maybe you do, but you have headphones, but a lot of us don't. And so I got some stats here that says 69% of people view the video with the sound off in public places. The ESRF videos, people, I'm assuming the people watch them when they are in their workplaces, probably, and they probably have the sound off. So we do videos that can be used with the sound on or off. When a lot of our videos just have music and they don't have any sound. Other ones, they have interviews in them and then they have sound, but we always caption everything because it's important that people can actually read what has been said or read the whole story, right? It's important for us because not only because it's easy to do it with the sound off, I mean, you can follow the story with the sound off, but also because we at the ESRF, we all have people coming from all over the world and we all speak in English, but everybody has different accents and people understand English a bit differently as well. So if we've got captions, then the message is clear and people can understand what the person is saying. It's not frustrating. So 80% are more likely to watch an entire video when there's captions because it just helps the understanding. So it's up to you. Having voices in the video makes it a bit more complex in the time of editing as well, but I'll go through that as well later on. So then I go to the tips on the planning. So if you got interesting experiments, so most of you probably use this at the ESRF. If you have experiments coming up at the ESRF that are interesting, that you might think that could work for a video later on that you want to do, plan to take some shots. You can also contact us because we're always very keen on getting footage of the users when the users are here, because we can actually use it afterwards. If we got a press release in 2 years down the road, and we want to put together a video, we've got that. And it's not only for our social media channels, but as I said before, media loves videos and they love to have footage. And it's not only TVs now, it's everybody. I mean, newspapers as well have videos, they publish videos on their websites. Then the second couple of points are more about interviewing people. So I don't know whether you're going to go down that road or not, but I just put it there just in case. If you're going to talk to someone and you want a quote from them, plan that ahead and try to talk to that person beforehand so that you can tweak what kind of quote you want in your video. And then also, if you interview people for a longer interview, think beforehand what questions you want to ask and maybe share them with the person as well. And then think ahead of any support footage. And I'll go through support footage later on. Well, I call it support footage. I don't know what it's called, but I'll explain what it is in a second. So these are the tips for the planning. And now we're going to the execution. So how are we going to do this? So these are more like technical aspects of it. So you got the technical points that are important because otherwise, you know, it might not work. Shoot at the highest resolution possible. So if you can at 4K, shoot at 4K. Otherwise, high definition is fine. And there's a reason for this. Is because, you know, you might want to crop a bit of the shot afterwards, or you might want to zoom in, or you know, you might want to, you know, zoom into in the detail of the shot. And if you don't have the highest resolution possible, if you start zooming in, then you're going to quickly lose resolution in the video, and it's going to show. So the best thing is that you shoot at the highest resolution possible that your phone allows. Then there's the rule of thirds. This is something that probably you've heard about it. It's very common in photography. So where you've got your screen, and actually on the phone, you can actually see it. You've got the screen and you've got like a grid with 9 squares. So basically this is like your image composition. And then you have to, you know, the idea is that you don't have someone straight in the center, but slightly to the right or to the left. So to do, you know, the composition of your footage or of your image. So that's quite important to think about it beforehand. Then there's some shots that are quite interesting in videos that are panned, basically. So basically when you go from one side to the other, and you can do that very, very slowly, and it looks really, really good. And this, you can, ideally you would use a stabilizer, but if you don't have a stabilizer, you have to have very good, you know, not shake with your hands. And just basically go like that, right? And these shots, they don't look like much, but actually I'll show you afterwards a couple of videos where they are really good shots and they work really well. Shoot in landscape mode, even if you're gonna use your video, say for reels, shoot in landscape mode anyway, because you can then use it on Twitter in landscape mode. You can use it on the like Square on Instagram, for example, and then you can use it vertical in Reels and TikTok, for example. I don't know if any of you are using TikTok. That gives you more options, and you got all the environment. Unless you're super sure that, say, no, I'm super sure I just want a vertical. Well, fine, then go for vertical. But if you might use it for different social media, for example, use landscape mode. Then if you're filming someone that's talking to the camera, make sure that they are at eye level, that they're not higher or lower, because then it does look a bit bizarre. And then when you interview someone, if you interview someone, ask them to pick up the question in their answer. So, you know, how's your experiment going? Great. No, my experiment is going great, or the experiment is great, something like that, because otherwise if you say just great, you're not going to be able to use the great on its own. And then a bit about light, avoid backlight, but that everybody knows that now, because we all do Zooms all the time. So we've been told that you shouldn't have the light coming out from behind you. Or avoid, for example, shooting outside when the sun is shining in the middle of the day, because then you're going to get a lot of shadows and it's not very nice. So these are just some technical points, and I'm just going to talk briefly about the support footage. So support footage is very useful when you imagine that you're doing a story without voice, but you are in the captions, you explain the story, right? And there's a caption that you need to put there so that so the people understand what you're saying, but you don't have anything to illustrate that caption with. So what you do is you put support footage. Which could be from people talking in the corridors to people in the beam line talking or doing experiments, people walking in the corridors. So we have loads of footage of people walking in the corridors, because it does help to auto transition from one part of the story to the other part of the story. It also is very useful if you got an interview with someone and the person mumbles, or the person makes a mistake, or does and you need to cut that. If you have the person looking in the camera and then you cut and then you put the other bit together, then the person is going to jump. Whereas you can put this shot in the middle, and then you can go back to the person, and the image doesn't jump, which is quite interesting, that use. And then you can also combine photos with footage. So sometimes we do have experiments. So for example, I'm working now on a video where we've got photos. We don't have any, we have one little video clip. It doesn't matter, we can combine photos with footage. And I'll tell you a bit more about how to combine photos with footage a bit later on. but it works. It can help work in the narrative of the story. So tips for the execution. Yeah, consider support footage apart from everything else that you want to shoot. The mics on smartphones work really well, but be aware of ambient sounds. Here at the ESRF on the beamlines, it tends to be really, really noisy. So if we are going to do an interview on the beamline, we always have to go through post-production, you know, tweaks and stuff. And sometimes it can be a bit of a headache. Also, if you're outside, if there's wind, you might not hear it then, but actually afterwards you will hear it in the post-production. So if it's your first time doing videos, then maybe go without sound and just with music, or you know, or be aware of all these things. Avoid clothes that have patterns because they can do a funny effect where the, you know, all is a bit fuzzy, or bright jewelry, and then consider the background. So if you're filming someone on a beamline and there's like 3 cardboard boxes next to them, you know, make sure you remove them. Also look at bins, because bins is something that everybody just, you know, you just don't see them because they are part of the office's environment, right? But then you might have your shot and there's a black bin on the side and you haven't removed it, and then that's what all you see when you're doing post-production. So all these kind of things, or like sockets as well. Sometimes if you're doing a shot of someone like here, and then you got a socket right behind him and nothing else, and you do see the socket as well. So consider the background, be very careful about tidy it up so that the viewer only sees what you want them to see. And then ask for consent when filming people. You obviously have to have agreement for filming and then for distributing it afterwards. So, and I think that depends on every country is different. So I don't want to go in details on that, but yeah, you should ask people whether they agree to be in a film and to be distributed afterwards. So I'll just go quickly through post-production. This is a shot of a screenshot of Adobe Premiere Pro, which is what I am currently using, but I'll go through that at the end. Well, first I'll do a couple of slides on something else, and then I'll focus on the software editing software later on. So post-production. So when you have all your footage, you need to put the story together. So you got your script that is going to help you, but then it's the real deal. Right now, we need to put everything together. So the story, you got the beginning, the middle, of the end, and the end is just like a normal story. The first 3 seconds are crucial. On social media, if you don't capture people's attention in 3 seconds, you're doomed. Basically, they're not going to watch it. So with that in mind, you need to think of a headline, and you need to think of the first image that you're going to put in your video. So your headline needs to be attractive, intriguing. So you can evoke the outcome of your research in the headline, or you can ask a question, or you can just say something that's like they're intriguing. So people say, well, what does that mean? And then, you know, you try to make the audience want to hear more. So the headline is something that you can take some time to work on, because you know, you might think of a headline and the next day you think, no, right, that headline doesn't work, or you have a headline that's super long, try to make it shorter. So it's a bit of an exercise. And then the image. So it needs to be an image that it's attractive, basically, right? You can't put a graph of, you know, like of your experiment, because that's just not, that's not going to work, because a graph, you need to explain a little bit what's in the graph, right? It needs to be something that's self-explanatory itself as well. And then basically in the beginning, you're going to be explaining a bit the background of your research. So we had a story about some scientists that studied, that found a jellyfish in Australia. They were looking for bioluminescence creatures, and they found this jellyfish, which was very unique. It had a very unique color, and then a blue color. And then basically they came to study it at the ESRF. But what we started with the video is basically, here is the, you know, they are in this amazing island in the Great Barrier Reef, looking for bioluminescence creatures, but then what is bioluminescence? You know, why do you want to do this? And then you talk about fluorescent proteins, and then you have to explain what fluorescent proteins are for, because you don't take for granted that people know what they are for. And then you develop the research, right? And you say, well, these are fluorescent proteins are for this, and then you say, and actually these guys, they took this, and then they came to the ESRF to find out, you know, investigate more into this protein, and then in the middle is normally when the ESRF comes in. It's normally when they say, well, we came to the ESRF to do this research, and then you explain, you know, how you found out you know, what your research, what you discovered in your research, and how you carried it out. And then in the end, you give a bit of context. So either is what is next, or what's that going to be useful for? Is that going to be useful? You know, is there any applications? You know, a bit of, you know, you kind of finish up with. It doesn't need to be a conclusion, but it needs to be a bit like the next step. You know, just close the story. So this is more or less the structure as I see it, and that's the way we do it here. Then I just wanted to show you some headlines that we used. We've used through time. So you got the Van Gogh one. So basically it's the contrast of putting Van Gogh, who, you know, like ancient painter many centuries ago, and synchrotron, which is a super high-tech facility, right? So it's like Van Gogh, synchrotron just doesn't go together. And well, I mean, it wouldn't go together in someone who's not a scientist's mind, right? And then you ask a question, right? And then you kind of create a bit of interest in the audience to, well, you hope, and then they want to see your video. Then there's also the story of the Easter eggs. So this was a paper that came out on Easter weekend last year, I think. And basically they were studying dinosaur eggs. And the interesting thing is that, you know, it just was such a good coincidence. So we combined the Easter with Easter eggs with dinosaur eggs. And then basically the title, you don't explain anything about the research, but it's kind of you know, intriguing title, right? The intriguing headline. And actually these work really, really well. I don't know if it was because the time frame was really good, or you know, I think it was because a combination of Easter eggs and dino eggs, and then as well because the dinosaurs always work. Then we had another story, which is a bit more, if you want, more complicated to explain, which is about proteins. So we had a protein for drug delivery. This is one of the first videos that we did. And basically, yeah, it's not that easy to explain, but the scientist said, oh, you know, this is a bit like Lego. And then I said, oh, okay, hold on, then we'll just talk about Lego as well. And that's what we did. And then in a way, it's very interesting because I even used a shot of Lego pieces being put together in the video. So it's just like kind of a bit, you know, far from a protein, but it's the mechanism was very similar. So it worked as well. And then there's this story was very interesting about birds that actually they eat fish that got a lot of mercury, and then their bodies detoxify the mercury. So, you know, you read that and you're saying, what? So it's just you want people to go and find out more. And I think it works. And videos in general, I think with a good headline, it works. And then if you've got a good image like the Easter eggs, which is a really cute image, then, you know, it's a win-win, basically. Editing tools. So there's, as I said, desktop, web-based, or apps or mobile apps. So for desktop, I'm just going to go through the ones that I know best because I know them, so it's easier for me to talk about them. So Premiere Pro is our you know, our preferred software. We use that. It's very complete. It's got many functionalities. It's quite easy to use, and and you got a lot of functionality. So you can slow down the music, you can speed it up, you can tweak the sound as you like. You've got lots of functionalities that you don't have with others. And so basically, if you want to do everything and not feel frustrated, go with Premiere Pro. Then you got Premiere Rush, which is, and both of them are paying actually, yeah. So Premiere Rush is also a paying software. This was invented by the Adobe guys for YouTubers. So it's much easier to put together. But at the same time, it doesn't have as many functionalities as Premiere Pro. Then we got the web-based ones, and I just want to quickly talk about the Adobe Creative Cloud Express, which used to be called Adobe Spark at the time. It just changed within the last 3 or 4 months. It is very, very simple. You got subtitles, easy cut, you got music available, and there is a free version of it. So, and the free version is actually okay. I think you just get the watermark at the end of the video, but that, you know, yeah, that's something that you could probably cut somehow if you want. But it's easy. It's very easy to use, and that is actually what I started using when we started doing videos in 2018. I started using Adobe Spark. And you just drag and drop your videos, and you put your subtitles, and you got different templates as well for titles, and then you can just do it landscape or square. It gives you these 2 options. It works really well. If you don't want to do anything too complicated, it works. Then you got Vimeo, which is very simple. I've looked at it a little bit, but I never used it. But if you want the free option, there's only 30-second long videos. So yeah, it's kind of a bit limited. And then you've got Canva, which is a graphic design tool that's on the web. And originally was graphic design, but now they're starting doing videos. It's a bit similar to Spark or Cloud Express, but the Cloud Express has had videos for a long time, whereas Canva is only just starting to have videos. As well, there's a free version and a paying version. The free version is pretty good already. The thing is that the videos, they only just started using videos or doing video editing. So I find it a bit limited, and maybe in a year from now, it's going to be better. But, you know, if you're interested, just go and have a go and look at the different options and see what works best for you. So, and if you're very brave and you do actually editing on the mobile phone, you got Premiere Rush, which is actually free on the phone, but it only works with really high spec phones. So my Samsung is an A51, which is not one of the best, and I can't download Premiere Rush. But if you got a very good iPhone or a very good Samsung, for example, or very good or whatever brand, you can have a go and see if you can download it. But then, you know, you just have to do it on the mobile phone, which is, I find it a bit complicated. And then Creative Cloud Express is also on the phone as well, if you want, and Canva, the same thing. But as I say, I always mount videos on the desktop because that's the simplest way. And then like a week ago, I asked people who had signed in for this tutorial whether they had any questions, and people were talking about animation, scientific animations. I mean, unfortunately, it's not really my domain, but I had a bit of a look at it. So you got Blender, which is a 3D animation software, and actually I think I know some scientists that use it for 3D animations, and it works, and it's free. And then After Effects, you might be able to do some animations as well, but as I say, After Effects is paying. And then someone asked me about GIFs. Well, you know, when I have to do a GIF, I do it with Giphy, but we hardly ever do GIFs actually. So, but anyway, I'll leave it there. So in case you're interested. And then resources. So you got a video, right? And you're talking, for example, about your research on lithium-ion batteries, but you want to explain, you know, lithium-ion batteries are found in telephones, right? On mobile phones. So what do? You can go to Pixabay or Pexels, for example, try to find footage of someone looking into phone, for example, or things that illustrate a bit your research, the applications of your research. So for images, you've got Pixabay and Pexels. Both of these, you can use them without crediting the people, which is really nice. And then otherwise, you can go to Google and type Creative Commons and whatever you want to look for. But you have to be aware that Creative Commons has different degrees of attributions. Sometimes you have to attribute it to the person. Sometimes you can't tweak things. So, just be aware of that. And then in Wikipedia, normally the photos on Wikipedia are normally free of use. But as again, sometimes you need to credit the person. And then I wanted to just quickly touch the music. Music makes a huge difference in videos. Because, just kind of transmit emotions that you don't transmit them otherwise. Creative Cloud Express has some selection of music that you can use, but is not very extensive. Then Canva also has some selection of music, but we work with Bensound. Bensound is a website where they have really cool music, and it goes by genre, and they got paying music and they got free music, and all you have to do is credit them, or all the explanations are there, but there's really good selection of music, and they keep on putting music in there, so it's very nice. I mean, now they become so popular that sometimes you have a video and you got your sound, and then you see someone else's video and they got the same music. So it can happen, but it's still very nice music. So it's worth having a look at that. So tips for post-production: once you've got your video all put together, go and show your video to someone who doesn't know anything about your research or your work. Or who's not very familiar with it, and let's see what they say. And you can actually get quite good insights from these people, because they can give you tips that, or make you realize of things that you might not have realized because you're so much into it, but then you kind of, you miss a bit the bigger picture. Then read the subtitles. So if you're doing subtitles, read the subtitle without voice, for example, because if you've got voice, the subtitles go with the voice. But if you just have subtitles, read the subtitles to decide the time frame, because sometimes you think, well, 5 seconds is enough, but actually if your subtitles are very long, then you will need more than 5 seconds. So you make sure that people have time to read the subtitles. Equally, make sure that people don't get bored. They read the subtitles and they're just like 2 seconds more waiting until the next image comes along. So that's quite important. And then when you use still images in post-production, don't just put a still image. Do a slight zoom in, very, very slight zoom in, or a slight pan, because like this is going to keep the dynamic of the video. Adobe Creative Express does it by itself automatically. So you put an image and then it does the little zoom by itself. But Premiere doesn't. You have to do it yourself, for example. And it makes a big difference. I mean, you will see, otherwise it looks a bit odd. So these are the tips. Oh, and this says, thank you very much. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of videos that we've done. The first video I'm going to show you is a video of that we did. It's a bit of an ad that we did. I used Premiere for that. And I'll show you without music and with music, so you see how different. I'll show you just half of the video, because otherwise we'll be here forever. And then you'll see the difference that the music makes. So I need to stop sharing now, and then I need to share again. I'll just show you without music for a second. So this is an ad that we did. If you see the images, the light pan that I was saying, you see the pan, everything is pan. So this is something we learned from our professional videographer who does that a lot, and it looks really cool actually. So you see the video is nice, but that it's okay, right? Whereas I'm going to start again now from the beginning with the sound, and then you see how it changes in terms of emotions and like connection. So that's just to show you that how powerful music can be in a video. Really, it can transmit emotions, and then actually you almost edit with the music. So when the music goes bang, you change your shot, and it is very powerful. So always, if you don't put any, well, we always put music, even if we got interviews, we put music in the background. So I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm going to show you one more video because I realize actually I've spoken for a long time. Let me just do that again. There, that's just an example of a 1-minute video that we've done before. So you just realize a bit what we do. So the batteries, if you've never seen them before, because it was the first time that they saw batteries in tomography in batteries particles. So here, how they degrade, sorry. Here it's going too fast. So basically here you got all this kind of stock footage that I took from all these free resources that you got on the web. And then you explain, you know, battery failure, which is a very common problem. And then you do light zoom. And then you got some footage of here, our scientists working on it. Scientists walking again. It works. You say they go to the beamline, so they walk to the beamline. Then you show a bit the environment and what you've done, and then what the results were and what it showed. And then it's the first time that you see actually the particles degrading like this, so that's why it's so interesting. And then this is basically the research open doors to industry improve electrodes, and that's it. So the last image, this image as well, this was also a stock image. And basically I had an image of the battery in each of different places, and I just did a little montage myself. So I just put one image, one image, one image, one image, and then it ends up being the whole image like that. So basically that's a kind of video that we do. This is, I think this was done with a Spark as well. So you see, you do things that are, you know, pretty decent, I think. So now if you want to ask any questions, I don't know, I've talked for a long time. I don't know if anyone has any questions.